Hi there, this is Joe from MGC Technical Service. Just wanted to do a video today about the CSWA Sample Exam, specifically looking at the modelling section of that sample exam. So what I'm going to do first of all, I'm just going to show you how to get a hold of this sample exam. So if you go to the solidworks.com website, and then if you just click on that search bar, and let's just type in CSWA Sample Exam, hit the enter key, and I'll bring up this first one here, so just click on there, and then download media, and this will bring up the sample exam for us. Okay, I'm just going to close these windows just now, move this into its own window here. Okay, so this is a great little document that put together, so it just goes through CSWA, sort of why to get the CSWA certification, goes through all the different sort of details of what you can kind of expect in the CSWA exam, little tips on how to prepare for the exam itself, and also actually tells you how to take the practice exam. So there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can either do it through this form, or you can download this virtual tester client, which is what you'll need to download to actually sit the CSWA exam itself. And you can do a sample exam through there as well. And this tells you how to download the software and kind of walks you through that step by step, what to do to start that exam. Okay, so I'm just going to move on to the sample exam itself. So starting off with sort of test questions. So there's three different parts: the drafting competencies, and then there's part 2 is the modelling, and then part 3 is the assemblies. So the drafting competencies is just basically assessing your ability to determine the different sort of views that you can get through through SolidWorks itself. Okay, so I won't go into too much detail about these. What it's an idea to sort of familiarise yourself with all the kind of different views you can get, things like crop, section, projected, isometric, broken out sections, things like that. Okay, what I'm going to focus on today is I'm going to focus on the modelling side of things. So a big part of the exam will be based around these models, so different levels of beginner, intermediate, and advanced models. And what will generally happen is you'll start off getting shown the schematics for the part itself, and I'll give you some further details about sort of material and things like that. And the first question tends to give you multiple choice answers, so ideally what you're looking to do is to get your answer bang on with one of these 4 answers, and that kind of sets you up going forward. So what I mean by that is the following questions after the initial modelling question will be basically modifying that part. Now if you get the answer bang on one of these ones, then you know you're in a good place to start off. So when you modify that part, then you know your answer should be pretty close or bang on the answer that they're looking for. Okay, so we'll go through this step by step basically. So let's say we'll start off with doing the part modelling itself. Okay, now if you have got 2 screens, then perfect, you can basically have your sample exam or your actual exam on the one screen and SolidWorks on the other. But I'm just working with the one screen just now, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use these windows here, and I'll get my SolidWorks up here as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do first of all is in SolidWorks, got a new document, new part, okay, and this will bring up my workspace. Okay, now there's a couple of different things that you might want to do before you actually sit the exam or the practice exam. Just sort of things that they tend to look for. So the unit systems, millimetre, gram, second, and tend to look for answers in 2 decimal places. So we can kind of set this up before we get started on anything. So we'll just go to Tools and scroll down to Options, and then if we just click on the Document Properties. So here's the units here. Click on there, and this lets you select the unit system that you want to use and set your number of decimal places as well. Okay. Now another thing that I tend to switch on is go back into the systems options and click on the sketch, and I like to make sure that this enable on-screen numeric input on entity creation is selected as well. It's just because I kind of feel that that saves me a few different clicks, so it saves me a few seconds here and there, and you know, the time kind of lets you move on with different things and makes you feel less rushed. Okay, now a couple of good sort of practices that I found as well, with just kind of making sure that I'm not having to kind of go back and say, what did I miss out, is I kind of skip over the schematics first of all, and I go down to the question itself and I will look at what it's actually saying. Okay, just to see what information I can extract from this and get set up in my workspace, so I can just basically start working through the actual dimensions. So starting off, millimetre gram seconds, we've already got that set up. Decimal places too, we've already got that set up. So material, AISI 1020 steel. So if we go over to our SolidWorks here, material is not specified, so just right click on there. Now here we've got a favourites list of the different materials that you have saved there. Now I've got AISI 1020 there, however if you don't have that in this list, that's absolutely fine. Just click on edit material, and here we've got the bigger list here. So there's our AISI 1020 there. Now if you don't have it saved in that favourites list, all you have to do is right click on that, add the favourites, and that'll be shown in the list for you next time. Okay, so we're just going to select this, apply, close that, and we can see the materials applied there. Like I said, we've already got the unit system shown, so that's perfect. Okay, and then what we're just going to do from here is look at what else we need to do. So this part here is basically equations that we've got. So if we go back and look at the schematic, we can see that we've got dimensions here labelled A, B, and then we've got the thickness, which is C. And this is going to have the values here. Now a good thing to do, like I said, to begin with, is get these equations put into your workspace before you get started as well. So we've got a couple of different ways of doing that here. So if we go back into our workspace, maximise that window just now. So as you can see, we've got the equations here. If that's not shown, it's quite simple to sort that out. Just click on here to the tree, right click on there, hidden tree items, and then scroll into hide or show tree items. And here we can see the different tree items that we can actually have here. And equations might be shown as automatic or hide, just select that to show, and then okay that, and I'll put that in here for us. Okay, and to use that, all we just do is right click on there, manage equations, and it brings up this screen. Okay, so another way we can do it as well is I've got this toolbar here. Now this is one I've kind of put in. Again, if you don't have this toolbar, this could be here, it could be up here, it could be down here, but if you don't have that shown, again it's quite simple to get that put on. Just go up to your ribbon here, anywhere in the grey, right click on there, with our toolbars, and this toolbar in question is called the Tools toolbar. So we just click on that, and that'll bring the toolbar up. Now I prefer to have mine here, but again you can move this about by clicking on these dots here, and you just drag that toolbar wherever you want in that workspace. Okay, but I'm just going to launch back over here. Okay, so if we click on the equations here, just click on that, and this brings up this window as well. Okay, so now what we're going to do is just going to make this screen a bit better again. Cancel this now. Right, so there we go. Okay, so it's going to click on this. And then I'm just going to input these three equations here. So the global variables, all I'm going to do is just click A, that's equal to 81, B equals to 57, and C equals to 43. Okay, and then we'll see the values are held in there as well. So just click OK, and that's our equation set. Okay, so that's all this information that we've got from here. And now what we'll do is we're just going to start drawing this part. Okay. So what I'm going to do first of all, the way I kind of normally do this one is I'll start off kind of here and I'll draw this kind of section to begin with and dimension that as well. Okay, so all I'm going to do is right click on the front plane here, sketch. Okay, I'll start off with my line here, and I'll go along there and just kind of roughly do the shape. Okay, I'll stop there for a second, and what we'll do is we'll just dimension what we know here just now. Okay, so for example, we know that this point to this point is 29, so we can dimension that. Put that close to points, drag that down, about 29, and we know that this top bit to this point here is 24, so again, just go there and fill the top line, and make that 24. And we know that this top line here is 29, so we'll click on that point, and this line, and we'll make that 29. Okay. And that's kind of all we can do from there at the moment. Okay, so we'll start drawing the rest of the part here. So I'm going to click on the tangent arc here, and we'll just kind of draw that kind of similar to what's shown here. Put that point there, and we'll click again just to make that line. And then what we're going to do is draw this line here up to this point here. Okay, so click on the set line, and let's say it's going to go up. Just try and make sure we're not adding any kind of mates that we're not really wanting here. Okay, and then go along, and then we'll go down, go back along here, and then we can see we've got another little sort of tangent arc there. But what we can do, instead of coming off the line command, we're just going to go back to that point, and that'll turn it into a tangent arc for us. We'll just snap back to there. Okay, so we'll come out to drawing the line command, and then we're just going to start adding these dimensions all the way around this part. Okay, now I'm not worried about the chamfers or this fillet here at the moment. I'm going to put them in a little while, and I'll show you how I'm doing that. Okay, so we'll start with this tangent arc. So we've got the radius of 19 here, so that's that, and we know that this point to this point, so this point here to this point here, we know that is 14. This part here to this part there is 32, so do that there. Okay, and then we know that this line here at the bottom is 19, so again we can do that. Click on that line there, and make that 19. Okay, and the part's starting to kind of take shape. We know that this radius here is 29, so again, just kind of radius 29 there. Okay, and then what we notice as well is we notice that this point here is actually on that line, but on this part we're not. So I'm just going to come with the smart dimension in a second. I'm just going to click on that point, hold control, and click on that line again. Let's not go to the midpoint, let's go somewhere else on the line, and click there, and then we're just going to make that constant. Okay. Now again, let's say it's starting to kind of take shape, but there's still a few other things we need to do here. So let's go back to the smart dimension there. Now we know that the full length of this part is equal to length A. Okay, so I'm going to click on that line here, and on this line here. And what we'll do is just put it equals, and this brings up this drop down here. So let's click on global variables and A. Alternatively, you can just put the capital A in the quotation marks after the A equals sign. Let's type that. And then we know that this bottom to this top is equal to the global variable B, so again we'll do that as well. And just type in equals quotes capital B quotes enter, and that is making that equal to here. Okay. Now what we need to sort is we need to sort this region here. Okay, so I'll call this smart dimension in a second, and now from our drawing here, you can see that this line and the arc are tangent to each other, so I'm just going to click on that line, hold control, click on the arc, and then with that tangent. Okay, it's not quite looking the way I want it to look, so just kind of like that there. And then the other thing we need to sort as well is one more dimension that I'm not actually putting here, which is this 10 degrees here. So click on that line there, and that is 10 degrees. Okay, and there we go, we've got our part now fully defined. Okay, now what we're going to do as well is I'm just going to move these dimensions slightly so that we can kind of see them a bit better. Okay, and this dimension out here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm just going to add this hole in here as well. So Smart dimension, we'll click on the circle, and we're just going to draw the circle in here. Now, we know the diameter of the circle is 14, so we'll just go ahead and type in that 14 there. And then we'll click on the smart dimension. I'm going to put this right, so it's 14 from the bottom, and we know it's also 14 from the side as well. So we'll just dimension this up to get this in place. Type in 14, and type the 14 again, and that fills the hole right where we want now. Okay, so what we're going to do now, click on features, and we're going to extrude this boss base, okay? Now, what I want to do, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to explain why in a little while as well, is I'm going to actually change this from being plane to being the mid-plane. So this basically means I'm extruding on either side of the plane here. Okay, so we know that overall this thickness is C, so again, we can just get rid of that and put in equals, and then we can either just drop down and select C, or let's say we'll do quotation, the capital C, type that, and there we are. So that's most of the part done now. All we need to do now is add in these chamfers and this fillet here. So what I'll do actually now, we'll add the fillet first of all. Okay, so we'll know that the fillet is radius 5, so let's type the 5 in there, and click on that line there, and put the tick, and there's our fillet. And then go down to the chamfer this time, and we'll do this chamfer just now, so that's 5 by 45. As we can see here, it's already 45 degrees, we just need to change that chamfer to 5 millimeters. And then select that edge, put a tick, and there's our chamfer. And then we just need to add these other two chamfers here and here, with 7 by 45 degrees. So let's say we've got the 45 degrees already selected, so let's change that to 7 millimeters. And we'll select this edge and this edge here, and mark that, and there we are. There's our part. Okay, so I'm just going to do the orientation, and I think it looks quite similar there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to just weigh the mass of this part. So again, there's a couple of different ways we can do this. We're going to click on evaluate. And again, if you don't have this tab up here, just right click anywhere on any one of these tabs, go down to tabs, and there's the tabs that we can kind of switch on. So just click on that to switch it on. So you click on evaluate, and then there's our mass properties there. Also in the tools bar that we've assigned there as well, it's here as well. So just click on there, and then here it tells us the mass. Now again, make sure that's just the 2 decimal places there. That's the questions asked, and then we're just going to basically look for this answer in one of our possible answers, and then we have answer D. It's exactly the same mass, so that's perfect. So that's answer D from the first one. Okay, now here's where the equations actually come in quite handy. So part 4 is basically looking to modify this part. Now because we've got these equations already set, this question is going to take just a matter of seconds to deal with. So we just want to make sure everything's correct. So still 2 decimal places, still same units, same material, and it's just basically saying we're just going to modify this part with these equations. Okay, so let's go back over to our SolidWorks. Again, what you might want to do with your hand is when you finish doing each part, just save them, just in case you have to go back and review the original parts or anything like that. Just go back, just save them as you're going. Now, what we're going to do, like I say, just going to change these equations. So I'm going to click on the equations here, and then change that to 84, change that one to 59, and change that one to 45. Tab through, see the answers in there. So click OK, and the part will rebuild automatically. And then all we need to do now is find the mass. Now this one's not multiple choice, and this is why we want to make sure, if possible, that our answer is bang on one of these, because if it's not, then this could really throw this question off and we might lose marks here. Okay, so we're going to just weigh the mass of this part. Okay, and there's our mass there, 1032.32. Okay, and then I'm just going to tab through some of the answers here. 132.32 for question 4, so that's perfect, absolutely perfect. Okay, now the answer key is actually at the bottom of this document as well, so I've just kind of opened up in a different window just for quickness. Okay, so that's question 4 done. Like I say, really quick question to do if you've got these equations all set up. And then we'll move on to question 5, where it's asking us to make further modifications to this part. Okay, so we can see we've got a cut in here and here, got another hole here, and then we've got this cut in here. Okay, so again, like I say, I'm just going to ignore these to begin with, and I'm going to scroll right down to the question and just make sure that I can get all the information extracted from here to begin with. Okay, so again, unit system still the same, decimal places, material all still the same, but it's asking for these different equations. Okay, now the reason I kind of do this first is because I could end up going and just modifying this part and overlooking this, and then it's going to give me the wrong answer because we don't have a multiple choice here. So I want to make sure I'm getting all this information as quickly as possible. Okay, so again, just go back over to our equations, click into the equations there, and again we're just going to change these values. So 4 and there we go. Okay, so that's the equations I'll put in. As we can see, the part has just changed again. Okay, and now we can go up and look to modify the part itself. Okay, so we'll see we've got a cut in here. This cut in is by 19 millimeters, and we can kind of see that it's affecting this part and this part. Okay, and we've kind of got all the different details here. Okay, so what I'm going to look at first of all is I'm going to look to basically offset this side here by this 52 millimeters to here. Okay, so to do that, just right click on my face, sketch, scroll just a little bit so I can see, and then click on offset entities. I'm just going to click on this side here. Let's just undo that. So offset there, right, never mind. We'll start that one again. So right click sketch, okay, let's go up, and this time I'm going to select on this side and then click offset entities. Now you can see it's going the wrong way, so to fix that we'll just reverse to go in the way, and I'll type in the value 52 millimeters, and this will put that line exactly where we want that. Okay, now let's do here, let's extend that line down like this here. Okay, now as we can see, this line here is coming right along from here, so we can do that as well. And what we're going to do is just vertically draw that right out past the part, and I'll show you why in a minute. And then I'll come down here, right along here, right around the part, until we get back to here, and snap that. Okay, and then just click on features, and we'll extrude that cut, and there we go. As you can see, this is already cut into my part by 43 millimeters, which is wrong. Like I say, it's 19 millimeters cut, so we'll just change that value to 19, and then hit tick, and there we have it. We've got our cuts there, and there. So that's that part done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to create this hole that goes through the part. So this time I'm going to right click on this face here, sketch. I'm just going to sketch a circle just anywhere just now. We know that diameter is 11 from schematic, and we know that the dimensions here are 14 from the top and 14 from the side, so it's smart to mention that again as we did before. To the top and 14, and then try that again, there we go, and there, come on, smart direction, so we'll try it there, and there we have it. 14 again, so that puts that exactly where we want that. Features, extrude that cut, and this time we're just going to go through all and tick that, and there's that hole. Okay, so we're looking pretty good so far. Now what we need to do is put in this part here. Now remember before where I said that I was going to, when I was extruding the original diagram, I was going to extrude it with that from the midplane basically. This is why, because I looked at the question and saw this. Okay, so the CSWA exam, I kind of realised that doing it from the midplane was a lot more beneficial. It's going to help things along the line. So what we're going to do to create this is I'm just going to go to this front plane, right click, and I'm going to sketch on the front plane itself. And the reason being is because we can see that that front plane is bang in the middle of this part. Okay, And I've got some dimensions here, but I've not got this dimension. So this is going to make this a bit more beneficial. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to create the slope that I need. Okay. So in order to do that, let me say normal to there, normal to that plane again. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with this arc. Okay. And I'm just going to click anywhere on this line. Now again, try not to snap to that midpoint because that'll make things a bit more difficult later on. Just anywhere on that line, and then we're just going to kind of draw anywhere here. Again, don't snap to any particular midpoint, just somewhere on this line, and then we're going to kind of create the slope similar as possible. Okay. And then I'm just going to smart dimension that so you know that this radius is, can't really see on my drawing here, but we know that radius is 41, okay? So we'll do that. Okay. And then what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to just make that hold control on that side there, and I'm going to make them coincident just to kind of get all that in the right place. And then we know that from the top to this line to this point here is 36. So again, smart dimension from the top down to this point here. So 36. Okay. And this just kind of puts that right where we're wanting that. Okay. Now what we're going to do as well is, as before, I'm just going to basically draw around this part just to kind of make this something that I can basically cut through. Okay. Take out there, take out there. Okay, and then I'm just going to features, I'm going to extrude that cut. Okay, now as you can see, we're coming from the midplane to the edge here, just in the one direction. Now if we go back to our schematic, we can see that from that edge, from this edge here, we've got 12 millimeters, and the cut itself we're looking to do is 24 millimeters in total. Okay. Now let's say because we've got this midpoint, we don't have a dimension here, but that's fine because we've got this as the midpoint. So we'll scroll down and just double check the value for C is 44, so that's the thickness. Okay, so from here let's do a bit of simple mathematics. So half of 44 is 22. Okay, so then we've got 12. From here we know that for a fact, so take 12 away from 22, which gives us a value of 10 millimeters. So we're just going to extrude that by 10, cut by 10 millimeters on this side. And then just go down here and click the box for direction 2, which allows us to go in the other direction, okay? So again, simple mathematics, we've already cut 10 mil on this side, 10 mil from 24 gives 14 on this side, okay? So direction 2, just change that to 14. And then tick that box, okay? And there's our part. Then we'll go isometric view, just to double check. Looks pretty spot on to me. And then again, it's just asking for the overall mass of the part in grams. So again, let's click on the scales here. We've got a value of 628.18. And let's just make sure that that's matching on the answers as well. 628.18, perfect, okay. So let's go back to the exam here. So we'll close that out. Okay, and then finally, we've got question 6 here as well. Okay, so again, just going to ignore this to begin with. And extract whatever I can from here. Okay, so same unit system, same decimal places, same material. And then we've got a couple of notes here, okay? So only one pocket on one side is to be added. It's not a symmetrical part. Okay, so the pocket we're talking about is this pocket here. Okay, so that's what we're looking to add to this. Note 2, assume all unspecified dimensions are the same as in the previous question number 5. So all our equations, everything else is exactly the same. We're just now looking to modify this part and add that pocket. Okay, so let's just show you how we do that. So we'll go back to our part. Now what we want to notice here is this rim here is basically 1 millimeter typical all the way around. Okay, and same here as well, so this 1 millimeter typical for these bits here as well. Okay, so what we're going to do is just going to go back to our part again, save it from the last modification as well. So we'll right click on there, this space, sketch, scroll it just slightly. And what we're going to do is we're going to offset entities, and this time we're actually looking to offset all the way around, okay? Now, as you can see, it's trying to offset it out of the way. Just click on reverse, and this will offset that in the way. And we're looking to offset this by 1mm. Okay, as you can see, that's giving us this route here. Let's take that. Now, you can't really see on my part because of the colour, but there we are. Okay, and then now what we're going to do is just again extrude that cut. So features, extrude cut. Okay, and again, we're just going to basically get this 1mm here. So go back up to the previous question. Like I say, I've got our dimensions here, so 12 and 24. That's 36, and the middle part is 44. So this means that this part here is 8mm. Okay, so we'll go down here, and we're just going to basically extrude this cut by 7mm. So leave that 1mm there. Click on the tip, and there we are. Okay, that's the start of that pocket there. Okay, but as we can see, the pocket actually kind of cuts right under. And you can see that from here as well. Okay, so what we're going to do is we now need to basically create this part of the pocket. Okay, so again, just going to right click on there, sketch. Okay, come around a little bit, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come around here, and I'm going to click on this line here, and I'm going to offset that entity. Okay, I'm going to offset it by the 1mm as well. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this face and convert these entities. Okay, so this basically makes them all individual lines now. Okay, and then what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to trim everything that I can. So the edge of this line here, all these lines, I just convert out because we don't need them. And then I'll come right back in here and I'll sketch that, trim that a little bit here. And then this gives us a solid that we're going to be cutting now. Okay, so again, it's features, extrude that cut. And this time, what we're going to do is, because we know this is 12mm from that surface, so instead of blend, I'm just going to offset from the surface. We'll go round to the back of the part here, click on that surface, come around, and then change that to being 12mm. Hit the tick, and there we go, there's our pocket. Okay, again, we'll go back to the isometric view, just to compare it to the drawing. I think that looks pretty spot on again. Okay, and then again, we're just going to weigh that part, which gives us a mass of 432.58 grams. Okay, so again, I'm just going to check that against the answers, and there we go. Okay, so that's how you do this basic model and all sort of different techniques that you might need to adopt doing that. There are several other examples you can do, and I'm going to upload some more of these as the weeks progress. But yeah, there we go. If you are planning to sit the CSWA exam, good luck to you, and I'll catch up with you again down the line.